Mr. Seagull's come over.
Anyway, we're not eating, so he's not approaching us.
Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name's Ian J. Cole and this is
Jane, hi.
And if you've not been here before, we are vlogging every day from Edinburgh Fringe Festival. Today is our last day, so today is day 9 and we are now up to show 2, which is number 32, I think, if I'm rightly. I did write it down earlier, but I've lost the page.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah, show 32 in 9 days, which is not bad, is it? Anyway, Jane was handed this flyer, which is the Booklovers comedy show. Now, we are both book lovers, and
I like the artwork.
Yeah, the artwork's good.
I thought that intrigued me because it's sort of, it's obviously meant to look like a painting. And in fact, sorry.
No, let's go for it.
I took it because I was sort of interested, and initially we didn't think we could make time, but then I realised we could, so I went back and got it. And in fact, later on, the guy who actually that is tried to hand me another one, and I said I've already got one. So I was further intrigued.
The other thing about this is another show on the Free Fringe. So if you don't know what the Free Fringe is, it's pay what you like. Really, most people will. I mean, if you can't afford it, you pay nothing. There's a bucket at the end of the show, but most people pay 5 or 6 quid, something like that. I mean, I hadn't even read the flyer. I went with Nora Jenny. No. We went thinking it was going to be more about books than it really was. I mean, I'll just say it ended up and I have actually filmed quite a bit of it, which I'm going to include, not the whole thing I taped because I didn't tape the whole show, but a snippet of each of the comedians that were on it, and really it is a showcase for other people's shows, which I find slightly disappointing because that's not what I thought it was going to be about. I don't know about you.
No, I did think it was going to be this guy talking about
you thought it was going to be his show all the time.
I mean, it's called the Booklovers comedy show, which, as we said, because we read a lot, blah blah blah. But it actually, and it certainly when I was handed it, I wasn't told that, and you could, if we'd read the leaflet.
Yes,
we might have.
So it might be our fault.
So it might be our fault. So he did sort of 10 minutes, and it was all book-centred, trying to find out people's favourite books. He then, as people shout out books, he then picks one, and it's his book of the day.
Book of the show, wasn't it? Yeah, that was it.
And he tweets about it.
Yeah.
There was some jokes about some popular stuff, and he also bounced off members of the who are in the audience as they said things or reacted to things he said. So there was that. It was fine. I
mean, actually, just before you carry on, I did want to shout out a book, but I couldn't remember the author's name, and I thought
exactly the same for me. I was going through the alphabet.
And actually I got my phone out because I was luckily I was sat, and I'd asked him if I could film some of it, and he was very cool about that. It was George. Is it George, his name? Yeah, George. And the book I would have shouted out would have been Bad Blood, the Theranos story, but I couldn't remember who the author was, and I thought, well, it's a great book, and if you fancy reading a book that is it's factual but almost unbelievable. They are making it into a movie,
Anyway,
we're digressing. But anyway, that would have been my choice.
Mine would have been Possession, and I can't.
Oh yeah, Toni Morrison.
No, that's Beloved.
Oh yeah, sorry.
No,
yeah.
anyway, I can't for the life of me
yeah.
remember. It's Joanna Trollope's sister. That's all I can remember.
Bring your host to the stage. So please put your hands together and welcome to the stage, George Demarellis.
Robert Perkins, everyone. Yeah, that's what she did. She hadn't said a joke yet. That's fair enough. That's a reasonable reaction. She did just get 4 stars from Chortle, though, so she's very happy with herself. I don't know why I'm pitching that show. Anyways, how are we doing? All right.
Thank you.
That's all right. Thank you for coming along to a Book Lovers comedy show. Give yourselves a round of applause. Wasn't the most enthused woo there, to be honest. Ooh, I don't know. Okay. No, thank you for coming along. This room probably has the world's smallest stage. I reckon. Like, I don't know if you can see. I'm straddling it right now. This is the whole stage. Yeah. I just to warm the acts. No lengthy soliloquies, you know. I was gonna be like, all the world's a stage, and we, but men and women. Just all right, gauging his Shakespeare fans early. All right, that's just like to see what kind of show we're dealing with. All right. Yes, I'm George. I'm the host, so I'll be bring all the acts on. But I do have to start off all these shows the same way. Does everyone here like reading? Okay, that was going to be... Someone's enthusiastic. What a bully up the back. He's like, no, screw you guys. All you nerds, I'll take all of you. That's all right. Okay, let's do honest. Yeah, anyone here doesn't like reading? Let's hear it. Oh, he's backed out of it now. What a coward. All right. Straight away. He's like, no, I'm getting attention. This is too much. All right. He's used to being in the majority. How good is it we're there for once? Yeah. We'll take you. Not with our fists. We're book nerds. But we'll write a very lengthy blog about it. I'll tell you that much. Yeah. The Twitter will be a light. Right.
Anyway, so we then had... Four comedians who came on and were very good. They stuck to time, so they did literally about 10 minutes.
No, I think they did less actually. Some of them seemed less actually.
It wasn't very long.
No.
So we had Alice
Fraser, who we've reviewed,
stand-up, and she actually, we won't talk about her because
we've reviewed her show, and she did
stuff from the show.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, she did mention, the first thing she mentioned was her favourite book, but that was as far as the book's concerned, that's all she mentioned. She then went into part of the set, which is okay.
Our first act, the very famous Alice Fraser.
Very famous. That's a big call. Hello, I am Alice Fraser. My favourite book is The 13 Clocks and the Wonderful O by James Thurber. It's a kid's book, but it's I highly recommend it. It's an interesting thing. My show this year is called Mythos. So it's about stories and lies in Greek mythology. And I wasn't originally going to call it Mythos, so I'm going to give you like a picture behind the words, which is I was going to call it Logos. So it was going to be about like truth and order and structure. And I realised I couldn't call it Logos because people would read it as logos. And I would end up with audiences full of advertising executives. And I don't think they're my target demographic. I don't know who my target demographic is, but it's not the people who are trying to sell me Spanx on Instagram. I get very odd targeted advertising online because the algorithm doesn't quite know what to make of me. I don't put a lot of personal stuff online. It's mainly jokes and plugs for shows and Dwayne The Rock Johnson appreciation posts. So the algorithm doesn't. I get social anxiety disorder services. Are you afraid of public speaking? Sure. I get pansexual dating services. We don't know what she wants, let's offer her everything. And I get plus-sized women's clothing ads, which I find confronting. You're right, that isn't the punchline. I find it confronting because while I am all for body positivity, I was a big teenager, I'm glad that there's a story now for people who've traditionally been made to feel bad about their bodies, you can now feel good about their bodies. But also, those ads, I don't know if you get them, but they're super patronising. You know, you're not too fat to buy mascara. Like, actualize your empowered selfhood by buying our shitty leggings. Like, it's so just capitalism and a different greasy moustache. You're like, get away from me. Also, I was brought up Buddhist, So while I am for the idea of people loving their bodies, also Buddhism is pretty anti-loving your body. Here's a direct quote from Buddhist scripture: "Those who are entranced by the body are entranced by filth." So there's some conflict there. But on the other hand, of course, I try to look after my body. I go to the gym, except in January, obviously. I never go to the gym in January. It's full of people who never go to the gym, except in January. And they're terrible at everything. Like, I don't want to be patronising, but also, you're not meant to be crying while you're doing sit-ups. Oh no, sweetheart, you can't fit a protein shake on top of all of that self-loathing. It's very stressful.
Then there was a guy whose name we don't know.
I think his name was Philip, and he didn't have any flyers at the end, otherwise we'd have picked one up, and he didn't hang around.
No, so
and he was okay.
yeah, he was okay. Again, mentioned a book.
Yeah, he was quite short. His set was shorter than the others, I thought.
Yeah.
Yes. No. Okay. I love books. Books are great. How good are books, dude? They're alright. Well, get the hell out of this show. Books are great. I love books. I love going to a bookshop. Love looking at books. Love picking up a book. Love smelling a book. How good's a book smell? They smell great. Love buying a book. Love taking a book home. Love putting a book on a shelf. Love rearranging a book on a shelf. Love rearranging them again. Colour, surname, title. Love it. My favourite thing, though, based on my entire history with books, is never finishing a book. Yes! How good is not finishing a book? You know what's better than the current book you're reading? Any other book. They're so good. Start them, never finish them. I love them. I used to work with a girl. I asked her what her favourite book was. She said magazines. And she has, however, finished 50 Shades of Grey. And one more book than me. Never finish a book. Never going to. You ever finished a book, man? Don't tell me what it's like. I don't want to know. I want to live in ignorance forever. Are you a smart dude? Yes? Well, cocky. I like to think that I'm a smart person, but deep down I know I'm really dumb. And I know that because I was reading a book about the Panama Papers, which is about all those the shell companies and tax havens in Panama. And as I was reading the book, I was thinking to myself, I'm so fucking smart. Reading a book about the Panama Papers, I'm so fucking smart. Finding out about world corruption, I'm so fucking smart. And then partway through the book, I had this thought. I thought, where's Panama? Generally got 2 chapters later, I'm like, I've been thinking of Puerto Rico the whole time. Panama's not an island. It's got a canal, a hat, and a song. Do you know the song? It's called Panama. It's pretty good. Check it out. That book had a lot of my favourite things in books. Had a lot of footnotes. Fuck, I love a footnote. How good are footnotes? You know when you're reading a book and you're going down, it's like, oh, the man went down to the river and he filled up the bucket. And then there's a little one above the word bucket and you're like, oh shit. What's this gonna be? And you go to the bottom of the page, there's another little one. And it's like, buckets can be used to carry liquids and or solids. Popularised by the poem, There's a Hole in My Bucket, circa 1500. Like, oh shit. I've wasted my time. And then you go back. I love it when the footnotes start getting bigger than the actual text. They start making their own little novel. At the bottom, you go footnotes. You get them. When I was a teenager, my favourite author was Michael Crichton. You ever read him? Jurassic Park, Timeline, Great Train Robbery, Congo, Lost World. Whole bunch of books. He did them all. Whole bunch of books, turned into a whole bunch of movies, and I loved him. And he died in, I think it was 2007, 2008. And the year after he died, they released another one of his books. They said, we found this on his computer, and we're going to release it now for you to purchase. And I just want to put this out there now. When I die, nobody go through my computer and release whatever you find on there for the public to purchase. The public don't want it, I don't want it. Leave us alone.
Then we had a guy, and I have got his flight. Can I just get you to hold the camera while I try and find it? His name is Aidan Taco Jones. And I really liked him, actually. He's Australian. And he's on every day at the Laughing Horse, so he's on part of the Free Fringe and the Cabaret Voltaire at 9 p.m. And if we were here for another day, we may have gone to see his show. I mean, I thought he was.
His was more sort of book related in the sense that he read us
he did.
Passage from the end of 1984 by George Orwell, and then related it to a personal story.
Which was and again it was funny. He was and he had
tragic, but it was funny.
He had taken on board what the premise of the whole show was about.
Yeah.
You know.
He's slowly wandering over, I think. Okay. Hayden Taco Jones. Is he in the building? There we go. Okay. Get that round of applause going on that thing. And on the stage, Hayden Taco Jones.
Oh my word, I did not know I was about to be on. Me and my mate were just talking about quitting drinking, like losers. Anyway, how are you guys? You alright? Sick. I also don't have a long time. I'm just going to tell you guys a story. This story is about, in 2012, I typed out my favourite book, word for word, 1984. Heard of it? And I'm going to read you guys a little passage from the end there, because I typed it out. I wanted to be Hunter S. Thompson, do you know what I mean? Of course I did. I'm a fucking white boy in his 20s. And he typed out his favourite book when he was in his early 20s as well. So I typed out 1984. I want to read you a passage, and then I want to tell you a story that is pertinent to that passage. Everyone read 1984, by the way? Anyone not read it? Oh, sorry, mate. Well, I'm going to read something from the end. But I mean, you should have read it by now. So, also Dumbledore dies, and that dude Moby never finds his dick. So, this is from the end of 1984, when he gets out of room 101, goes to the cafe that he always used to hang out in, and he sees Julia again for the last time. They have this conversation. "I betrayed you," she said boldly. "I betrayed you," he said. She gave him another quick look of dislike. "Sometimes," she said, "they threaten you with something you can't stand up to, can't even think about. And then you say, 'Don't do it to me, do it to somebody else, do it to so-and-so.' And perhaps you might pretend afterwards that it was only a trick, and that you just said it to make them stop and didn't really mean it. But that isn't true. At the time when it happens, you do mean it. You think there's no other way of saving yourself, and you're quite ready to save yourself that way. You want it to happen to the other person. You don't give a damn what they suffer. All you care about is yourself." "All you care about is yourself," he echoed. "And after that, you don't feel the same towards the other person any longer." "No," he said, "you don't feel the same." So in 2011, I went to Bolivia, and I met this French girl called Melanie, and she was amazing. We travelled around South America together. And then I went back to Australia at the start of 2012, and she went back to France, and after 2 weeks, she messaged me and said, "Aidan, I love you. I want to be with you. Why don't I move from France to Australia, and we can be together?" I was 21 years old. Isn't that incredible? Nothing like that had ever happened to me in my life, and that's the kind of life I want to have, those kind of stories. But if I'm honest, looking back at it, we should have left it at what we had in Bolivia, because there was too much pressure, and I was too young for someone to come to the other side of the world into my life and to have to integrate that whole thing into the life that I already had, but I didn't know how to say that to her, so instead I just said, "Okay." And the first weekend that she came to Australia, me and her and Phil, my best friend, and his girlfriend, and a bunch of us went 3 hours north of Adelaide, the town where I grew up, and we went there for a weekend, and on the last day of that weekend, Melanie woke me up holding my phone. She said, "We need to have a conversation." She was French, so she said, "We need to have a chat." What an idiot. And she said, "Do you want to do it now, or do you want to do it when we get back to Adelaide?" I said, "Let's do it now." She said, "Okay." I just went through your phone and found the messages you and your ex-girlfriend have been sending each other this weekend. And straight away I was like, I wish I picked later. Fuck. I wish I'd waited until one of us was dead to have this conversation. She started crying, ran off over the hill. None of my friends really knew what was going on. They just saw a French girl new to the country run crying into the forest. Like, she's seen a snake? There's more out there, Melanie. No. Come back. Meanwhile, my best friend is having a fight with his girlfriend over very serious stuff as well. He just lost his USB. So, we've all got shit that we're trying to work through. He's screaming, "I can't find it!" She's like, "Relax, Phil, please." He's like, "I'm not going to relax. This has ruined a previously delightful weekend." Who talks like that? So, he comes back, Melanie comes back, we get in the car, Phil in the front driving, his girlfriend in the back, me and Melanie, Phil and his girlfriend in the front, me and Melanie in the back, 3-hour drive in silence. Nothing. For 3 hours, an hour into the trip, my phone goes, bling. Melanie turns and says, "Is that her?" And I say, "Yep, that's her." She turns back to her window, starts crying. I see in the front seat my best friend still driving, look over his shoulder, see that, turn back, put a hand on his girlfriend's knee and say, "Not us." And while that was happening, I was typing out 1984, and I remember reading that passage and thinking how relevant it was to what was going on in my life, because I think what Orwell was trying to say with that is it doesn't really matter what the thing is that you did, you know in your heart what you meant. In anything that you do, you know what you meant when you did it, and if you betray someone, it doesn't really matter whether you did the thing or not, because you know what your actions actually meant. And when Melanie and we broke up and she went back to France, and 2 years later I moved to London and I went past where she lives. We stayed friends. She lives in Geneva now in Switzerland, and we took a trip together for a week, me and her, just as mates. And at the end of the trip I said, "Melanie, thank you so much for doing this with me. You're an amazing person. I'm sorry that we couldn't be together, and I fucked up. I'm really sorry. 2 years ago I should have never slept with Grace." And when I said that, she said, "You did fucking what?" I guess it does matter. Thank you guys very much. Have a great night.
And then last up we had, I quite like this girl, Robin Perkins. Now, she was hitting on one member of the audience quite, because she said she was single and she was handing out flyers jokingly, and she said, "Oh, my phone number's on the back of that one, so give me a ring." So she was hitting on this poor lad in the front row. But I quite liked her delivery. I quite liked her style. And she was
talking about non-fiction.
Yeah, she was. I can't remember what she was talking about.
She was reading. It was something about sex.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And I mean, she wasn't inappropriate with it, but it was, and it was music.
Yeah.
She was quite full on, so maybe not everybody's cup of tea. She's American, but she actually got a lot of material over in quite a short time, actually.
And just looking at the flyer, she has had 4 stars from 3 Weeks and Ed Fest magazine. And what Fringe? I don't know Fringe Biscuit. That's a new one on me.
I don't know.
Anyway, so she's had some good reviews.
And she she's a 4-star from Chortle.
Oh yeah.
Did you mention that?
No, I missed that. No. Where? Oh yes, on the back.
Yeah,
Sorry, on the back. There's a.
She's pinned it.
She's pinned it, and yes, so she's on 5:50 p.m. every day in the Underbelly Bistro Court. So that's not on the Free Fringe. But no, she was good actually.
Miss Robin Perkins.
I know, I'm injuring audiences. Hi. Yeah, you guys might remember me from the start of the show. Remember that when I introduced George? Yeah, I'm wearing a different outfit because I've since gone home and taken a shower. I know, not book related. I am American. I understand though how you guys feel because I've been here for 11 years and I know. And I just spent 3 months in Australia actually, and I was all excited to go to that country because I was like, oh, it's a different country. Maybe they have a different outlook on Americans. As it turns out, that shit's global. But I am one of the educated ones, which is exciting. I used to be a biologist before I started doing this, so that was cool. Yeah, one day I just woke up and I was like, oh, income and security. No, thank you. So I now do this. And so George mentioned non-fiction books, and I realized some of you guys are looking at me like, oh, this is going to be boring as fuck. So I brought a book just to show you how fun non-fiction. The current one that I have recently read is Why is Sex Fun? Yeah, you're just looking at me like, if you don't know, you are not doing it right. But it has very useful information, and I'm just going to read you a couple things, and then I'll get on with my set. Oh, what's this? I'm using my flyer as a bookmark. Hey! Oh, I know, way more slick than you thought. Here, this one's got my number on it. Just kidding, call me. All right, so this is my favorite part of the book, is that In it, it basically says why other animals don't enjoy sex as much as us. But I think some of it could relate to humans, right? Because some people, right? So number one is sperm production is sufficiently costly for males. I don't know if you've ever felt that, where you're like, oh, I'm tapped out, love. I got nothing left to inject. Right? Number two, sex takes time that could otherwise be devoted to finding food. I'll be honest, some of my partners, whoa, I could go for a burger over sex. And number three, couples locked in embrace risk being surprised and killed by a predator or enemy. No, I know. Every time I hook up with a married man, that is very real. I'm just kidding. I haven't done it, don't worry. I've just lost all of the married crowd. Anyway, the reason why I'm reading that book is because I'm doing a show called Mating Selection, which has a bunch of science and philosophy in it as well. But basically last year at the Fringe, I did a dating show in front of a live audience that went horribly wrong. So wrong that it led me to question human morality. Yeah, that's how wrong it is. I've been researching game theory and everything, but it's an example of a bad decision that I've made. Like, I went on the dating show because I wanted love, because I'm single. Just in case you, just so you know, if there's any question at all, single. All right, what's your name? Sunny. Nice to meet you, Sunny. Are you single? Oh God, he's getting jealous already. Come on! How old is he? 25? I've done younger. Anyway, this is supposed to be a kid's audience as well. I am totally ruined that now. I make bad decisions, especially in my love life. No offense, Sonny, but so last year I did a show and I did a lot of research because I'm bad at decision making. So I did a lot of research on the neuroscience of decision making, read a bunch of books for that. As it turns out, when you make a decision, it's a combination of fact and emotion. So it's those two things work together, right? So it's like the prefrontal cortex, that's the factual part of your brain, and then you have the amygdala, which is like the emotional, sexy part of your brain, you know? And the two work together. They're kind of like the Carlton and the Fresh Prince. You know, they're like the Hardy and the Laurel of your brain. You know, it's kind of like a mullet, business up front, party in the amygdala. Right? And the amygdala, it's frustrating because the amygdala is so amazing and it doesn't get credit for anything. Right? It's responsible for the emotion of love, right? Which is very sweet, but we all know what gets credit for that. Fucking heart. Right? It's bullshit. What the hell does a ventricle have to do with love? All right, fear, that's your amygdala, but the bowels get credit for that. Honestly, the term should actually be, you just scared the amygdala out of me. All right, and the biggest frustrating one is their sex drive. That's what the amygdala is famous for, right? We all know the term should actually be, you are so thinking with your amygdala. All right, but the thing that is interesting is that it is responsible for your mating selection, like who you want to mate with. And I have recently been reviewed as having aggressive comedy flirting. Seriously, my number's on the back of that fucking thing, okay? I know. It was just, it's my producer's like, no, Robin, that's not your pull count. And I was like, come on, I want to get a date. Anyway, but it is. Your amygdala is responsible for who you want to mate with, right? And they've actually done studies that show that some animals can live with amygdala damage. It just means that they will mate with anything. Which is very interesting, right? So statistically speaking, the highest percentage of men living with amygdala damage are actually stag do's from Newcastle. Do we have any fun from Newcastle in? I feel like that was half the audience being like, fucking bitch. No, it's interesting though, because I think the brain is quite fascinating in how we work, and I actually read as well that actually one of the reasons why I can't make decisions, why I make bad decisions, is because I have a stressed out amygdala. And so I looked into that further, and basically like the first 6 years of your life, I learned that your neurons are in a hypnotic state. Which is very interesting. I was like, oh my God, you're hypnotized until you're 6 years old? And I don't have any of the kids. That's like the motion for having kids. I don't know. Just imagine they just pop out of there. Anyway, I know, although I was broody recently and it totally freaked me out. I was in Sainsbury's. I saw this screaming kid and I did not kick it in the face. So, I mean, I don't know. Maybe that means I want a baby. I don't know. I did once have a boyfriend, and they are kind of the same thing, right? Right, babies and boyfriend, right? Because neither of them can express their emotions using their words. And you can shut them both up with a pair of tits. So, not for everyone. Anyway, no, know. But what I learned is that if your neurons are in a hypnotic state, I was like, oh my God, well, I got 2 6-year-old nephews. That means that, they are basically hypnotized. And ever since I learned that, I've been messing with them. Yeah, like anytime one of them starts crying, I just yell something like Foster's, in hopes that when they grow up, if somebody orders a Foster's at a bar, they'll just start crying. So, no, it's not actually what it means. It means that you're very susceptible to outside influence in the first 6 years of your life, which is interesting. Because I put myself, I was like, all right, well, where was I? I'm from New Hampshire. So I was living in New Hampshire with my parents. My parents were married, right? My parents were actually happily married. And then I realized I am the only comedian at the Edinburgh Fringe that can do an entire show about how messed up I am because my parents were there for me. Alright. Listen, guys, I do need to go. So I'm gonna just leave. Some of you guys are like, I don't know and think that there is enough oxygen in this room for her. And that's accurate. I've been Robin Perkins. I'll hand you back to George. Have a great life. Cheers.
Well, bonus, everyone. Give a round of applause for everyone you've seen today. They will all have prizes for you on the way out. So if you want to grab those and go see their shows. A few quick things now. So one thing is, yes, if you want to follow the page, Booklovers Comedy on Facebook, Instagram. If you like books, you'll love it. But yeah, no pressure. And finally, yes, this is a free show. I don't know if you've been to a free show before. Basically, that means it's free to get in. But after that, it's kind of like a hostage situation. So. What it means is pay what you think it's worth. So I know that's hard to kind of think of. You're like, what, how much? £30, £40? No, calm down, okay? No. No, it's... if you're in perspective, like if you show an assembly, it'd be like £12, £15. I'm not going to say that much, but I think £6, £7, I think that's pretty reasonable. Like promoting literacy, we'll get to geek out together. It's a lot of fun. I'm looking at you getting flirted with by everyone now. I'm like, oh, he does have dreamy eyes though, doesn't he? Far around. That's such a great advice. I've also got a card ready here if you want to pay on card. Yeah. The future, guys. I tell you what, cash is digital now. It's not just ebooks. But yes, so if you want to do that, if you don't have anything, that's totally fine. And don't feel pressured like chucking. Yesterday, someone put in some Mexican pesos. It's fine. If you can't, that's totally fine as well. Honestly, the fact you'll get to sit here and share a love of literacy is beautiful as well. So, and also, if you want to come back another day, there's a different lineup every single day. So if you want to come back again, it's different all the time. So that's it for me. Thank you very much. Enjoy the Fringe. Enjoy your next book. Cheers.
But overall, I mean, I think the show missed slightly. Maybe that was our fault because we weren't sure that it didn't quite live up to expectations because we thought it was something else. But it wasn't
a disaster.
It wasn't a boring hour.
No, it was not. The place was packed, and a couple of people had been back before.
There were a couple of people that walked out. The lady that sat by me, who I was talking to before the show. She was here for a couple of days at the Fringe, and she didn't like George's delivery because at the end of his 10-minute warm-up bit, she says, "Oh, he's a bit boring." And I thought, well, actually, I'd slightly disagree with that, if I'm honest. And then she did leave after, I think
it was the second.
It was after Alice.
Oh, so it was after the first.
I think it was actually after Alice. Right. It might have been a second, but she left fairly early. Yeah. And another lady who was also sat at the back. Disappeared before the end. So a couple of it's not for everybody. But that's not to say that this is it was. I mean,
maybe they'd expected more book stuff like we had. But anyway, not a complete disaster.
No.
Certainly, if you were sort of wanted something.
It was quite gentle. There was a few swear words, so you wouldn't take your kids.
No, and it's different. Acts that are being showcased every day, so it would be different every day. And there's obviously George who that is book
the whole thing.
Focused, and he does the little join up bits.
Yeah.
So obviously, probably.
So how many stars?
I think I'd give it a 3.
Actually, I'd give it 3 as well. So it's a strong 3. Yeah, it's definitely worth watching. Yeah. So did we say when it's on?
It is. I can't remember if you did or you didn't.
No, I didn't.
No.
So 2:35 p.m. every day, right the way through, but not the 13th of August, at 32 Below, which is in Nicholson Street, under the Counting House.
Yeah.
Okay. So, okay. Yeah. See you in the next video. See you later. Bye.
Bye.